Hi guys, hopefully it works this time. It's not too echoey. I am calling in from my phone because I don't have the microphone thing on my computer. So the first time I recorded this for you guys, nothing worked. So I had this video and no sound. So here is the spreadsheet I promised you guys. I made this, I think it was back in 2012 when I kind of started messing with drop down boxes. I was doing a project for work at the time, and I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. So I want to make myself something, and I'm a total type A and love to know like what's going on, keep track of everything. So this has worked really well for us. And this is where I do all of our budgeting and expenses and make sure the bills are paid every month and all of that. So I'm gonna lay this phone down here. Hopefully it's not too far sounding. What I do every month is at the beginning of the year, I have one blank copy for myself that I use. And when you get this, do this file, save as, and then you can save yourself a blank copy once you have these filled in. So at the beginning of each year, all you'll have to do is make minor changes to any of your expenses that have changed, but you won't have to start over and like empty out a spreadsheet. And then I actually save mine by year. So I have a spreadsheet that shows pretty much all of our big expenses and our regular bills all the way back through 2012. And so what these are your titles. I use these ones for stuff that is going to be there every single month, even if it's not always the exact same amount. So things like student loans, mortgage, car payments, health care, stuff that you're going to have every month regardless. I put in here, and you can just rename them. So like, and these expenses, I put 26. I think for most people that'll be enough. If you need more, click into any of these boxes, do a right click and hit insert, and then it's going to go shift cells down, hit OK, and you can add more. And what that does is it keeps the formatting the same, because you'll see here, let's change expense 3 to test. You'll see that these correspond with these drop down boxes. So each month, what I do is I come in and I say, okay, I'm going to get all my expenses, and I put them all out, and I can pretty much tell you, if not to the penny, very close what all of our expenses are. So I'll fill them out, let's just say those are the amounts. And that way I know kind of what we have left for the month. And once I submit a payment, if I mail a check, I'll put, like check mailed and like the check number, maybe check number 102. And once I see that that's cleared my bank, I just overwrite that and put paid. Or if I submit something online, a credit card payment, anything like that, I put the confirmation number in there, just because I think that's good information to have. It is our responsibility to do our due diligence and protect ourselves from big corporations and that kind of thing. So if there was ever to be any kind of issue, their payment not going through or anything like that, you can give them a reference number, because otherwise they're not going to be able to do anything for you. So I like to keep track of that. And then once I see it's cleared, then I switch it over and put paid. So that's how I use that part. This variable spending I use for things that are like semi regular, but not really. So like things like vet bills, our gas, like our driving gas expenses. I have a tab in there, one for me and one for Clinton, so I can keep track of how much money we're spending putting fuel in our cars, so that if I start to see a trend that we're using more or we're using less, I can adjust our budget accordingly. What else I put in there? I put like a miscellaneous expense. I have a thing for tax, so anything that I think I need to be paying attention to when it comes time to do our taxes. For me, that's things like tuition payments, textbooks, exam fees, that kind of thing that can be deducted on our taxes as school expenses. Right now, I put those over there. So these are all just going to be kind of personalized to whatever you need. And this is the same thing here. These correspond to this item. Now, once you get this whole thing set up, and what I actually also like to do is over here on my regular expenses, I build like a budget. If I say, okay, this is roughly this much every month, blah, blah, blah. I come down here and I auto sum it um, so that I can see, okay, here are my total expenses for the month, and then I'll just come out to the side and, when we were in Hawaii, we both got paid. Clinton was military and I was salary, so we knew exactly what our paychecks were going to be. And he got paid on the 1st and on the 15th, and I got paid every 2 weeks. So I would come in here and put in our pay. So let's say that's it. Pretend like we made $10,000 a paycheck, because that would be cool. And I made 5. These are not real numbers, guys. Don't think I'm rich. But I would look at that and say, okay, here's our incoming money. And then we also have a rental house in Oklahoma. So I would say, all right, here's our incoming money for that. So then I could take these things and also total them up. And then if you've ever worked with Excel, you're probably pretty comfortable with this formula part, but I just put in an easy formula. So I'll say our leftover amount is going to be our income minus our expenses. Okay. So I just kind of do that on my January tab. And then as we get new expenses, like, I started a Netflix subscription a couple months ago. So I came in and I added that into here. And what I do when I add a new expense, because I don't want all my formatting and stuff to go away, is you can actually highlight both rows and do insert. And then when you do the shift cells down, it'll keep all that stuff. So if I were to add a 5 in here, it automatically updates all of my stuff. If you were to try to come add it under here and try to put it in without just sticking it in the middle somewhere, then you'd have to redo all your formulas, or at least some of them. So I like to just stick it somewhere in between my existing expenses. It doesn't really bother me what order they're in. So that just gives me a general overview that I can come back and look at and see to make sure we're still on track. And then I also list my budget over here. So for us, I do a gas budget for driving, and these are my real budget numbers. Groceries, we do retirement savings, college fund savings for Colton, a travel plan, or like travel fund savings, and one other one I forget. Oh, emergency fund, of course. And so we contribute a little bit to each of those every month. And then we also have these other budgets that we try to stay within, because I think budgeting is really important. And coming from somebody that used to be really poor at managing money, I can tell you it's not as scary or hard as it seems. But if you're paycheck to paycheck, it can be really defeating to look at a budget and to look at your expenses and what's coming in, and see really how real the struggle is. But I will tell you that it will never get better if you don't take control over it. And I know that's really uncomfortable to hear. And that, by the way, I'm by no means a financial expert. I'm just showing you what has worked for me and what's worked really well for us as far as starting to pay off debt and get financially in control of our lives. So if you're paycheck to paycheck, you need to be doing this, even if you're not, because you need to know where your money's going. So anyway, off my soapbox. So yeah, that tab or that screen, and every month I just go through here and I fill them out, and you'll see the tabs along the bottom here. And once you get this front screen set up with these drop down boxes, the whole spreadsheet is set up so it remembers all those things, so you can just go through. And every month, I usually end up doing a little bit of budgeting calculations out here on the side, and I just kind of leave them there because it's my own little mental notes, about what's going on. And I track like really, I have a miscellaneous item on this other one too, like an actual miscellaneous one when my spreadsheet's filled out, and I'll track like large one-off purchases that we make. Like I don't know, if you bought a new TV stand that costs $300, that's typically not in your spending budget, but it's a one-time thing. I like to keep track of those kind of big one-off purchases so I don't look back and go, hey, wait a minute, like, where did our money go? What did we spend this money on? I can look back and see and remember, oh yeah, okay, February was the month we bought that TV stand, and we had planned for that and we had saved a little bit. And if we run under on a budget one month, I might put that towards something else. Um, and yeah, so that's the spreadsheet. It's pretty straightforward. And for those of you that I'm sending this to, there's actually a little instruction sheet that I made to go with it. So I'll send you that too. And you can just let me know if you have any questions. This number for me isn't really a true reflection. As you start putting in your expenses and stuff, it'll also total down here. But for me, we have a really good reward on our credit card. So the bills that we can pay on the credit card, we do that and then pay the credit card off every month. But because we like to use the points, because if we're paying for it anyway, we might as well get something out of it. But you have to be very careful with that because it's very easy, coming from somebody who's done it multiple times, very easy to slip backwards and say, well, it's just a couple $100 more than I have to pay right now. I'll pay it off next month. And that's a bad cycle to get into. So just if you're going to go the route that we go with paying your bills, like electricity bills, that kind of thing that'll take credit cards, you got to be real careful. Anywho, that's that spreadsheet. And I actually have another one. I just made this one a couple months ago, not months, a couple weeks ago. And this is how I track what's in our savings account, because I want one of those Wells Fargo accounts that has like the breakdowns with I think it's Wells Fargo, that has little sub accounts within your savings account, but there's not really one super close to us, and we already have Chase, and I like their online mobile stuff and being able to deposit checks, and I just don't really feel like switching banks. So I just keep track of my own stuff. So what I did in here was I split out what we had in there, and I made like the initial deposit. So today's the 6th, or I might say I'm going to deposit $200 into Colton's fund. And you see how this total updated, and also this one down here. I've only left a few columns because we're going once a month. I think I put like 2 years or 2.5 years worth of columns. How many are there? I don't know. I don't do math in my head. Anyway, if you needed more, you could always just insert cells in the middle. I just wanted to be able to see my totals more easily without scrolling like really far down the page. But then it's the same thing. You can go through here and put what you're saving for, all this stuff, and you'll see that this will keep adding up. So this should always match what's in your savings account. And I highly recommend, before you mess with anything else, even before you try to pay stuff off, get yourself an emergency fund to build up. And, the experts recommend 3 to 6 months. I'm sorry, guys, I have strep throat, so it might sound a little to you. Anywho, the experts recommend 3 to 6 months of living expenses. I will tell you, we don't have anywhere close to that, but we do keep like a nice little pad, an emergency fund, because what if you're driving to work one day and you blow a tire out or something, and now you've got to replace that tire? That can sink you if you're not prepared for that. And you need that tire replaced so that you can go to work and make money to pay your bills. But if you can't replace that tire, or you have to go into debt on your credit card to replace that tire, it can put you in a bad situation. So that's just a small example. Not to point out the negatives, but I want you to be prepared. So I would build up at least $1,000 in your emergency fund. And once it's in your emergency fund, you do not touch it unless it's really an emergency where you need that money. So no mani-pedis out of your emergency fund, nothing like that. if you can't get groceries and you need to feed your kids, or you need to feed yourself, and you have no other money to do it, that would qualify as emergency. But you're all smart. Use your best judgment on what qualifies and what doesn't. But I would recommend at least $1,000, and then once you get your $1,000 emergency fund, start paying off everything that you can to get yourself out of debt. And a lot of the ideas that I have about how to manage money actually came from Dave Ramsey's video training. My husband and I, where I came from, that part of the country, it's like normal to do marriage counseling before you get married. So we did a couple rounds with a pastor up there, and he had us watch the DVDs because that's one of the biggest things that splits up marriages is money, and not being able to manage money and being broke and not putting stress on your marriage. So I recommend, if you can afford it or if you have someone who has those DVDs, watch them because they're not like rocket science ideas. They're simple, but they're just so profound. So I would watch those definitely if you ever have the chance. But I have to give credit there because most of what I think about managing money came from there. But anyway, once you get $1,000 in your emergency fund and you can start paying stuff off, you can really start to see a big dent. And if you ever want to talk about the snowball effect and like how to pay off debt and like a debt payment plan and which ones you should pay first and that kind of thing, I would be more than happy to talk with you about that and tell you what's worked for me and what I think about it. But you know, message me sometime, text me, whatever, if you want to talk about that. But this is just a little extra spreadsheet because I think it's really good to know where you stand and to have savings built up. So once you can start saving for things, I would do that. Like if you're lots and lots and lots of debt in dire straits, I would pay off, some of the more crucial debts first once you get your emergency fund. But, like I still have a couple student loans that I'm paying off, but I don't put every spare penny towards the student loans, because we do contribute to these four funds every month. So, and that's just something we choose to do. And maybe you'll choose to pay everything off before you contribute to funds, but that part's kind of up to you. Anywho, that's it. Those are the two spreadsheets. Sorry it took so long to get them to you, but hopefully you'll find some value in them. And if you know anybody who wants something like this or would benefit from using this, please share it. It's totally free for everybody to use and all that. And I would be happy to help people get better control of their budgeting and stuff like that because I just know it's taken so much stress off of me to be able to know every month exactly where we are and where we stand financially. So anybody that this can help, I hope it does. Anyway, that's all. I'm going to hang up and stop recording, and I will send each of you that took the time to like or comment on my Facebook post about this, I will send it to you individually in a private message, and then I'll at some point post this recording as well, or a link. It's probably going to be a YouTube video, so I'll post a link to the video, and then if anybody else wants the spreadsheet, just message me, and I will send it to you. And that's all. I hope you guys have a good day, and thank God it's almost Friday, right? Okay, bye.